Hey guys, it's Hype Train here, this time with a video on Tactics Ogre Reborn. Tactics Ogre Reborn is a remaster of the original Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together. The original Tactics Ogre was a strategy RPG that first came out in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, and was later ported to the Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1, and PlayStation Portable. The remaster, called Tactics Ogre Reborn, is published and developed by Square Enix, and it came out on November 11, 2022. It is available for Steam, Switch, PS4, and PS5. Tactics Ogre is a part of a series of strategy RPGs known as the Ogre Battle Saga. The first game was Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, and it came out for the Super Nintendo in 1993. The second game is Tactics Ogre. The third game is Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, and it came out in 1999 for the N64. Tactics Ogre is widely considered to be the game known for being a big influence in the turn-based tactical RPG genre. In fact, most of the developers of Tactics Ogre went on to make Final Fantasy Tactics, which came out in 1997. Final Fantasy Tactics is a game widely considered to be one of the best games on the PlayStation 1, and one of the best of the best when it comes to JRPGs. So in this review, I will take a look into why Tactics Ogre is considered to be such a classic in the strategy RPG genre, and whether this remaster is still worth playing today. With that said, let's go on to review. Tactics Ogre takes place on a country called Valeria. Valeria is in a civil war and is split into three separate kingdoms: the Backroom, the Galgastani, and the Walster. The story begins with the three members of the Walster resistance: Denam, his sister Katua, and their friend Vice. They attack a party who they believed were the Black Knights of Lotus, since the Black Knights were the ones who imprisoned Denam's father years ago. The party were actually mercenaries who became sympathetic to Denam's cause, and they actually end up helping Denam fight against the Galgastani, who are the most dominant kingdom in Valeria and have been oppressing Walster for years. More allies join Denam, and they help him as the situation escalates into a full-scale war against the Galgastani. The storyline is about Denam as he tries to stay true to his original beliefs and ideals as war constantly changes the politics and morals of the world around him. Overall, I really enjoyed the storyline in Tactics Ogre. It was a very dark story involving a lot of backstabbing and betrayals, as a lot of the characters want to plot and scheme their way to become the ultimate ruler of Valeria. It is very similar to Game of Thrones in that regard. A lot of the characters were well written and have good backstories. There were a lot of good plot twists that make the storyline feel exciting. The lore and the setting is really in-depth and well thought out. There's even a feature called the Warren Report that goes in-depth on the lore of the game, and can also be used to uncover hidden side quests. The most surprising part is that this game came out in 1995. The fact that they were able to write and present a storyline this good with 1995 video game technology is nothing short of mind-blowing. The cool part about the storyline is that it has branching paths, and the path or choice you take has a big effect on the storyline and can change the course of the storyline drastically. With this remaster, once you beat the full game, there's a feature called World Tarot, where you can go rewind to any point in the storyline that has branching paths to pick a different choice and be able to see how differently the storyline pans out. This is really useful for those who don't want to completely replay a game just to see the full storyline. The overall graphics and presentation of Tactics Ogre Reborn is well done. Keep in mind that the game is a remaster of a 1995 game, so a lot of the graphics have been updated to high definition. The sprite work looks really good, and the backgrounds and areas have been updated to look significantly better than the original, looking a lot more crisp and clear. The UI has been improved and streamlined, making it a lot easier to navigate and understand for modern gamers. There's a line of sight indicator for magic and range attacks, and this is very important as you can actually hit your own units if your line of sight isn't clear. For a remaster of a game that came out in 1995, this game doesn't look and feel that dated at all. The soundtrack is amazing with a lot of memorable orchestral tracks. The tracks are composed by Hitoshi Sakamoto, who have composed music for many big releases including Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy XII, and Tekken 6. The different tracks for battles are definitely awesome and really helps make the game feel like a very unique experience. The different tracks that play during cutscenes really bring out the different emotions of the storyline. The soundtrack is definitely one of the game's high points, and this is a characteristic for many highly rated classic JRPGs and why many people really enjoy them. Also, all the dialogue is fully voiced in both English and Japanese, and the voice acting for both the English and Japanese voiceovers are really well done. The character portraits for the text dialogue boxes are high quality artwork, so both the graphics and sound do a good job of presenting the storyline and making the storyline memorable. The combat in Tactics Ogre Reborn is similar to other turn-based strategy RPG games. If you play games like Fire Emblem, Shining Force, or Disgaea, you know what to expect here. You control an army of about 8 to 12 units, and you take turns giving orders to your units to overcome the enemy army. Different battles have different objectives. Some have you kill a specific unit, while others have you kill the whole entire enemy army. So a lot of the combat is positioning your units correctly on a grid-based battlefield. There's a lot to consider and think about, such as terrain. Units on higher ground have more range for ranged attacks. You also want to try to position your units to avoid flanking and rear attacks from enemy units as much as possible, since flanking and rear attacks do more damage. You do this by utilizing terrain, as well as positioning your own units to try and choke point the enemy army as much as possible. You also want to position your units according to what type of unit they are. Units such as warriors and knights belong on the front line, while units such as wizards and archers are more fragile and suited to be in the back line using range attacks. I'll go over more in depth on different unit types in the next section when I talk about character customization. A unique part of combat that's totally different from any strategy RPG are the battle cards. Battle cards spawn randomly on the battlefield, and they give different buffs when you go order a unit to grab a card. Some cards increase physical attack, some increase critical chance, and some increase magic damage. Your enemy can also grab these cards and buff their own units. Since these cards are random, it makes each battle feel unique as they have a dramatic effect on battles. There's a Charioteero system that allows you to rewind to previous turns and redo a turn. This is useful in case you made a mistake and one of your units died, for example. This will create a branching timeline so you can return to your first choice in case your redo is even worse. This feature is definitely good for modern gamers who maybe aren't that used to strategy RPGs and can be used to avoid starting battles all over again from scratch. This is a feature only in this remake and not in the original. Between battles, there's an overworld map where you can buy items, train your units, which is basically level grinding, do side quests or optional battles, and advance the main storyline. Anytime you go back to the overworld map, it is a good time to save your game. Battles definitely feel very challenging and require quite a bit of strategic thinking. There were quite a few times where I actually made mistakes and had a lot of my units die all at once, so the game can be very unforgiving. Once a unit gets knocked out, you have 3 turns to either revive them with an item or a spell, or you win the battle. If the 3 turns are over and the unit has not revived, or you haven't won the battle yet, you lose that unit forever and can't bring that unit into further battles. Of course, you can either just load a previous save or use the Chariot Tarot system if you don't want to lose that unit permanently. So battles are definitely challenging, but feel very rewarding once you figure out how to win. I can see how the gameplay of this game went on to influence future strategy RPG classics like Final Fantasy Tactics and Disgaea. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to character customization and the progression system in this game. So most units in your party can be recruited either by hiring them through the shop or recruiting them in battle using a battle skill. Most units can be renamed if you like, and is not part of the main storyline, with some exceptions of set characters here and there like Canopus and Venom. Most of your units will be human units, which can come in 18 classes. There are also demi-human and monster units which you can recruit, and they work a lot differently than human units and have their own classes. So the class of your human units determine the strengths and weaknesses of that unit. For example, warriors are strong melee attackers with a lot of physical attack. Wizards and enchantresses can cast powerful spells, but have low defense and HP. Also, you can change the class of a unit at any time using a class mark, which you can get either by obtaining them in battle or buying them in shops. There's a lot to think about when choosing the right composition for your army for the right battle. For example, you can come across a battle where you want more warriors to deal damage on the front lines. Each unit can have 4 slots for equipping items, 4 slots for equipping spells, 4 slots for equipping skills, and 8 slots for finishing moves. Items are self-explanatory. They work like items in JRPGs. Different items have different effects such as healing, reviving a fallen teammate, or giving a temporary buff to a unit. Spells are magic spells, and there are many types of spells that do a wide variety of things such as single target damage, damage in an area effect, healing a teammate, or casting a debuff on an enemy. Skills can either be passive skills that grant a certain buff such as more HP, more defense, or more attack with a certain type of weapon. There are also some skills that are active that you can activate in battle, and once again these have a wide variety of effects such as Mighty Strike, which greatly increases the damage of your next physical attack. These active skills are limited, so you can't always stand them in battle and have to actually think about how to use them efficiently. Finishing moves are attacks that do significant amount of damage, and the finishing moves you can do depends on what weapon a unit is using. Each unit also has an element attached to them, and these elements determine the elemental strengths and weaknesses of that unit. For example, for a fire wizard unit, you want to equip fire spells for them as you will do more damage with them as a fire wizard. However, the fire wizard will be weak to water spells. You can change the element of a unit at any time using items called charms. So the character customization is very in-depth and is a big highlight of this game. There's a lot to it, and I plan on making a guide with tips on how to handle managing your units in a separate video. This part of the game went on to inspire other strategy RPG classics such as Final Fantasy Tactics, where a lot of fans will praise about the class and character customization of that game. There's 3 secret dungeons in this game that come after you beat the main storyline. There's the For Rampa Wildwood, Palace of the Dead, and the Pirate's Graveyard. You have to beat these dungeons all in one go. You can't use shops to restock on supplies, so you have to go into these dungeons prepared. The Palace of the Dead is the big highlight of these dungeons, as it is a 115 level dungeon. It's definitely long and tedious, but it is there if you are dedicated enough. Here, I'm going to summarize the major differences from the original Tactics Ogre. If this is your first time playing Tactics Ogre, and you're not interested in knowing the major differences, you can feel free to skip this section. A lot of the major differences I've already mentioned before. The UI has improved dramatically, making it easier for modern gamers to get used to. The charioteer system is introduced to let you roll back to previous turns. There's the trajectory system that lets you see the line of sight of your attacks, so you don't hit your own units. Charms were added so you can change the element of a unit. There's also easier equipment requirements, and this removed things like level requirements and skill qualifications. So now you can just equip an item as soon as it's available to you, as long as the class of that unit is able to equip that item. There's a good amount of new skills added to this game, such as the pincer attack, which is a really strong flanking skill. Finishing moves now use MP instead of tactical points in the original, which was its own gauge separate from MP. There's an option to scout the enemy army, so you can adjust your army accordingly before a battle begins. Random battles are removed, and instead you can train at certain locations if you want to grind levels. There's bonus objectives for each battle that reward certain items for finishing them. Here, I'm going to summarize all the positives of this game. The storyline is a well-written plot of politics and betrayal similar to Game of Thrones. The graphics have been updated to high definition. It makes the game feel much more modern. The orchestral soundtrack is absolutely amazing, some of the best work from famous game composer Hitoshi Sakamoto. All the dialogue is voice acted, and the voice acting is amazing and really helps with the presentation of the storyline. The combat is very challenging and rewarding, and you will have to actually think about the moves you make. They really updated the UI, added a lot of quality of life features, and adjusted game balance to make things easier for modern gamers. The character customization is very in-depth, and it's fun to make your own army composition. The 115 Dungeon Palace of the Dead is a very hardcore challenge, and is great post-game content. Here, I'm going to summarize all the negatives of this game. At the end of the day, this is a remaster of a game that came out in 1995. So those who absolutely need modern AAA graphics might not be able to get into this game. This game is difficult and doesn't have an easy mode. And this game does not have many tutorials that explain the game mechanics. This game came from an era where the game just throws the player in and lets the player figure things out for themselves. This can be seen as a good thing to some gamers who don't enjoy extensive tutorials and prefer to learn the game mechanics on their own, such as myself. I think this game is well worth the $50 if you've never played Tactics Ogre before and you are interested in strategy RPGs or JRPGs. The game doesn't feel outdated at all with this remaster, so now is a good time to play this classic that inspired many other strategy RPGs out there. Besides the graphics department, this game still holds up in terms of gameplay, storyline, and content compared to even most modern strategy RPGs such as Fire Emblem: The Three Houses. The game is about 55 hours to beat the 4 chapters of the main story, and then there's the post-game dungeons to keep you busy. There's no difficulty settings, but there is still replay value as there is New Game Plus, and once again you have the World Hero system that will help you see how the different storyline paths play out. There's a lot of character classes in this game, so you can experiment, having very different army compositions for fun. If you've already played the hell out of Tactics Ogre already, I don't think it's quite worth the purchase unless you're a super hardcore Tactics Ogre fan. If somehow you can't get past the graphics and presentation, you might go for a more modern game like Fire Emblem The Three Houses. In all, I give Tactics Ogre Reborn an 8.5 out of 10. This game is a true classic that still holds up to this day. It's amazing to see a game from 1995 still be among the best of the best when it comes to JRPGs. Tactics Ogre is a timeless classic that I think anyone should play at least once. I can say that I actually enjoyed Tactics Ogre Reborn more than a lot of modern $60 games with AAA graphics. This is my first time experiencing Tactics Ogre myself after hearing so much about this game, and I really enjoyed it. I hope this convinces Square Enix to do either a remake or a remaster of Final Fantasy Tactics, as I will definitely want to play that game if it ever comes to PC. I also hope that Square will make another entry in the Ogre Battle series. So anyways, if you like this video, please click on the like and subscribe button. It helps out my channel, and it helps me put out more content on JRPGs such as this video. Once again, my name is Train. I'm signing out, and I'll see you next time.